A man stands alone in the middle of the endless Nevada desert, the sun burning down like a giant torch in the sky. His lips cracked, his skin peeling, his breath trembling, and before his shaking legs finally give up, he whispers the words that kept him alive. I will not die here. I will not let her win. I will not end in the place she left me. If you want more survival stories like this, true, emotional, and powerful, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because this story will pull your heart in every direction. This is the story of a husband betrayed, abandoned, and left to die under the angry sun of the American desert, a place that tests a human spirit harder than any enemy ever could. He woke up that morning believing he was stepping into a peaceful day. He believed he was finally repairing the cracks that had been growing between him and his wife for months. He believed this drive would be quiet, healing, maybe even hopeful. They had fought, they had cried, they had distanced, but last night she had smiled, hugged him softly, and said, "Let us take a little."
He wanted to believe her, because marriage is built on effort and patience and hope, and so he agreed, without thinking twice. They drove for hours across the Nevada highways, the open sky stretching above them like a giant blue roof, sunlight glimmering across the truck windows, her hand resting lightly on her lap, the wind combing through her hair. She looked peaceful, almost warm again, and he allowed his heart to relax. When she pointed at an old, isolated road, empty, lonely, and said, "Let us take this one. It is quieter." He agreed. He still trusted her. He still believed in them. The desert around them felt like another world. Sand swirling in soft waves, rocks breaking the horizon, and silence stretching wider than any thought inside his head. After miles, she told him the truck felt strange. Maybe the engine was heating up. Maybe something was wrong. He stopped immediately, because caring was easy for him, because helping her felt natural. He stepped out into the hot wind, walked to the front, and lifted the hood, expecting to see smoke or a loose wire. But before he could say anything, his world shattered. A strong hit slammed against the back of his head. Light exploded. Pain rushed through him. His knees buckled. Sand filled his palms. The ground met his face as he collapsed, hearing her footsteps behind him, calm, steady, almost rehearsed. He tried to speak, tried to ask why, but his mouth felt full of heat and confusion. He turned his head enough to see her standing near the truck door, her face expressionless, not scared, not panicked, simply done. She climbed inside the truck without hesitation. She raised the window halfway, and with no tear, no regret, she whispered through the burning wind, "I need a life without you." Then she drove away, leaving a cloud of dust rising behind the tires, like a curtain closing on the life he thought he had. He lay there for minutes that felt like hours, his head throbbing, his breath broken, the desert sun already searing his skin. She had taken everything: water, phone, wallet, truck, even the shade. Slowly, the betrayal sank deeper into his chest, like a knife twisting. He had given her everything: years of effort, love, loyalty, sacrifices. And she left him to die alone, in a place where even shadows burn. He pressed his hand to the wound, feeling dried blood along his fingers, but he forced himself up anyway, pushing against the sand as his arms shook. He could not die here, not like this, not for her, and not with his daughter waiting at home, believing her father would always come back. He stood up, stumbling, the horizon wavering in front of his eyes, the heat distorting everything he saw. But he began walking, because survival starts with one decision: the decision to move. Every step felt like a battle. Heat crushed him. Thirst clawed inside his throat. The desert wind stung his eyes until tears evaporated before falling.
but he kept repeating to himself, "Keep going, keep going, keep going." Those words became a heartbeat, a rhythm, a promise. He remembered the night before, how she hugged him, how she kissed his cheek, how she pretended to choose love again. And now he saw the truth. She was acting. She was lying. She was already planning to leave him in the desert, like trash tossed out of a moving life. That thought pushed him forward, even when his legs trembled. Hours passed. The sky grew sharper, brighter, hotter. His vision blurred. The sand beneath his feet felt like walking on fire. He tried to breathe through the pain, but each breath felt like swallowing dust. Still, he walked, because stopping meant death, and he was not ready for his story to end. He searched the horizon desperately for anything, a road, a rock, a shadow, but everything looked the same, burning and empty. He felt his knees buckle again, and he crashed onto the sand, his lungs fighting for air, his muscles screaming. He pressed his hands into the ground, though it burned him, but he refused to collapse fully. He whispered into the empty desert, "Not like this, not today, not ever." He forced his body up again, stumbling in slow, painful steps, moving toward nothing except hope. The desert turned cruel as the hours stretched, heat waves bending the air like it was melting. He imagined his daughter's voice calling for him. He imagined her waiting at the window, and that vision alone gave him strength. He kept moving. When the sun finally lowered, the sky turned orange and the desert began to cool. But the cold was just as deadly. His body was shaking, his lips almost colorless, his skin stinging from the sudden drop in temperature. The desert does not care about human struggle. It only watches silently. He needed shelter. He searched the ground and finally found a cluster of rocks, just enough to shield him from the wind. He crawled behind them, curling his weak body against the stone. Night fell fast. Stars scattered across the sky. The wind howled. Coyotes cried in the distance. He hugged his arms around himself, eyes barely open, breath shaking as memories of her betrayal circled through his mind. He asked himself why someone who once promised forever could choose to destroy him instead. Why love turns into cruelty. Why trust becomes a weapon. He found no answers, only pain. But pain became fuel. Pain became fire. Pain became the thing that whispered, "Survive, survive, survive." He drifted in and out of half-sleep, listening to the sounds of the desert until dawn finally broke. The sun rose like a burning blade slicing through the cold. His body felt stiff, heavy, fragile, but he pushed himself up again because he was not dead yet, and that meant something. He staggered back into motion, following the direction of the rising sun, hoping it would eventually lead to a road. He dragged his feet through sand, each step leaving a shallow mark behind him. Hours crawled by. The sun grew fierce again. His throat felt like sandpaper, his tongue dry and swollen. He could barely think, his mind drifting between memories and hallucinations. But he kept whispering, "Keep going," because quitting meant letting her plan succeed. Just when his strength was almost gone, he saw something. A dark line slicing along the horizon. A road. A real road. He did not run. He did not have the strength, but he moved with whatever was left inside him, falling twice, getting up again, spitting dust from his mouth. When he finally reached the edge of the road, his knees collapsed, and this time he let them, because he had found something that meant hope. He lifted his shaking arm, trying to wave. Minutes passed. Heat shimmered. Silence stretched. Then he heard it, the rumble of an engine crawling closer. A pickup truck approached, slowed, stopped. A stranger jumped out, eyes wide with worry. "Sir, sir, can you hear me?" He tried to speak, but only a raw breath escaped his lips. The man helped him sit, gave him water, supported his back, and called for help immediately. The stranger stayed beside him, talking to him softly, telling him to stay awake until an ambulance arrived. In the ambulance, he felt cool air touch his skin like mercy. Tears fell, not because of pain, not because of heat, but because he survived something built to destroy him. Days later, in the hospital, he learned the truth. His wife had emptied their bank accounts, transferred savings, taken his credit cards, stolen his documents, and disappeared across state lines. She never reported him missing, never called anyone, never looked back. But he lived. He came back, and living itself became revenge. He healed slowly, piece by piece, physically and emotionally. He rebuilt his life, not around her betrayal, but around his own strength. He became a man who walked out of the desert, a man who refused to break, a man who survived, not for love lost, but for the love he still carried for his daughter. When he finally looked at himself in the mirror, he no longer saw the man left to die. He saw the man who refused, the man who rose, the man the desert could not keep. If you want more true emotional survival stories, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps powerful stories reach more people who need them.